Okay, everyone. Lock in. Okay, so how many of you are locking in? Lock in. The Great Lock In has started on September the 1st. And within the Fortitude Free Circle, we're using a lot of the principles. And let me tell you a secret. With Fortitude Free Circle, we were already doing it anyway. And so, one of the things that I want to really focus on is like when it comes to your wellness. Sometimes what I've seen, and even within myself sometimes, how much, I just realized I forgot to put my earrings on. But sometimes I think that when something seems like it's a lot or it seems so far away, that it overwhelms your nervous system. But the whole premise of you is to ground, is to settle, and is to center your nervous system. Because if your nervous system is not centered, is not grounded, is not settled, then you will constantly be in survival mode. Then you will it leads to burnout. It leads to other health conditions, concerns, and not worries, but realities like heart attacks and strokes and other diseases. And y'all, it's the things that we do, it's our habits, just like the habits that we have when it comes to our business. It is the habits also when it comes to our wellness, because if you are not well in your mind, in your heart, physically in your body, then you won't be able to pretty much like run your business. You won't be able to be. And sometimes there's this thing, and I've seen it. Oh, I rest when I'm dead, or, I rest when. No, it's integrating rest now. And when I say rest, let's back up a minute. What does rest mean to you? Because it could be with your definition of rest, and I get it. Oh man, I get it. Because it's almost like when you have this momentum going, you do not want it to stop. So, in saying that, what does rest mean to you? Because if rest means it's a luxury, it's something that you have to earn or you deserve, then I can see why you are not integrating self-care rituals and practices. But I tell you, it's like sometimes we run ourselves into the ground. And we've all done it because of the expectation that comes with work and the different things that we do. And this is why sometimes some of us be radical with our self-care. I can remember with one job that I had, I felt bad. I remember working one place. I started off taking 1 day a week off, and I'm like, something just still doesn't feel right. What is it? I was still tired. And it almost didn't even seem like I was taking a day off. And actually, it started off a half a day. And then I was like, okay, well, let me take the entire day off. And then when I did that, I was like, something still isn't right. And again, this is after, even though at that particular place I had worked years there, but it was also coming off of working years in the mental health field. And for those of you who work in the mental health field or any type of helping job, but pretty much is really in a job, to be honest, but especially those, because it can take a toll on you emotionally and physically. And so with that, again, a half a day, then turn to 1 day a month, and it still wasn't. And then I'm like, okay, well, let me take 1 day every 2 weeks. And then it ended up being one day a week. I did. I did. I just couldn't. It just felt like working 5 days a week was too much at that particular time. And sometimes over time, depends on the type of job that you have, it really can be. And yes, you could say there's work to be done. And yes, I'm going to say, it was kind of like, was it good for the company? One thing I can say is I cannot give my best if I'm not my best. So sometimes, and again, I am not telling any of you all to do that because each job is different. Some jobs can sustain that and some jobs can't. Probably most jobs can't. It's good when they can. The other thing I want to say too, in the helping field, it has high expectation of service delivery, but it is not. Very few places. I've been several places, observe a lot of things, and very few places in the helping field really help us to take care of ourselves. And this is so for those of you who are supervisors, who are directors, who are owners of, mental health, you provide mental health services or anything in the helping, because it doesn't quite have to always be mental health per se, but that's usually the thing. But it's like, what is it that you have in place where your employees, your team members can truly like recover and take care of themselves? Because if not, they will be making some radical movement. And can you really blame them? Because this is not an easy job. And then for those of us who are entrepreneurs and business owners, that's not easy either. So, and saying all of this is to say to be intentional about your wellness. Now, the main point I really want to make is when you're intentional about your wellness, some of it will be radical, but a lot of it is repetition. Because one thing that I see with some individuals is that sometimes you may think or believe that in what you're doing, it's not working. And it's not that, y'all. It's not that. It's the way that we are built as humans. We as humans require repetition. We require to hear things repeatedly. Remember the renewing of our mind. I guess you could say that's the new stuff, but it's also the repetition, and meditate on the word day and night. It's the repetition. So, you know how the saying goes, have you, like in order to be an expert, you have to do it. I think initially it was saying, 10,000 hours. And it'll say, no, you have to repeat it 10,000 times. And that's it. It is so true. And it is pretty much almost with everything. It really is. But when it comes to your mind, what are you reading to help? Either I'm more on the sustainment because I kind of feel like that people do a good job of getting somewhere, but in maintaining and sustaining wellness, that's where it counts the most because you can walk up the mountain, run up the mountain, skip up the mountain, but what do you do once you get up the mountain? Because there's another mountain somewhere. It's like there's another storm. And then sometimes you can become discouraged because there is another storm, because there is another mountain. But in saying that, y'all, that's life. It really is. And so, in saying that too, I'm going to say when there are opportunities to enjoy going up the mountain, because that's my part too. It's like, I don't mind the work, but sometimes it's almost like, oh, am I truly enjoying going up the mountain? And so that's another thing in and of itself. And that's something to work on. And so as you are going up the mountains of life, the storms of life, y'all, continue to be well in doing that. Don't stop. The other thing is, even though I say that it can be challenging, sometimes it's beneficial to like one person may say, oh, I'm being realistic. It is hard. Okay, that's fine. But even though it's hard, it doesn't mean that you don't have the capability of doing that. Because sometimes with some of you, sometimes you're saying it's hard and you quit before you even start. Or while you're doing it, it's like, oh, this is too much. I didn't realize all of this. The thing is, it's part of your calling. Because even though you reach this height, but there's another height that you may need to go even within that height. You know what I'm saying? And so one thing that came to my mind when I was talking about kind of like wellness and the different things, in that when it comes to the repeat, and which I've said this before, in that I distinctly remember actually this was twice, and I think the last time when I told this story I said the same thing, like, oh yeah, this was twice this happened. And this was before I even had this knowledge that I have now, about wellness, about self-care, about the things to do so that you can be well as an entrepreneur, so you can be well as a business owner, so you can be well for those of you who have partners, so you can be well as a parent, because people need you well, you know. So the two things is that when you have it in your mind to continue no matter what, you would do it. So the first example was when I was bitten by a brown, what is it called? Brown recluse spider. Now at the time, I didn't know that I was bitten by a spider. I thought I was bitten by a mosquito. And actually, I didn't even think nothing about the bite itself. I just thought I had a summer cold. But if anybody knows about the brown recluse, in that it is a very poisonous spider, and thank God my and I'm saying I was a teenager. Well, yeah, I was. But anyway, I was home for the summer, for summer school, all of that stuff. Got sick. Thought I had a summer flu, and my body was definitely fighting. And I was working at the Pick and Pay, and sometimes I would catch the bus and sometimes I would walk. But half the time it was faster for me to walk home because of the fact of the length of time that it took the bus to come. So in saying all of that, even though my foot was swollen, and at that time I was exercising on my own. I remember exercising to 1999, Prince song. And that was a real good aerobic song. It still is a really good aerobic song. But anyway, at that time, I wanted to keep the momentum of exercise. So here I am on one foot, just moving side to side, you know what I mean? And again, I didn't know anything. I had no knowledge, but I just wanted for myself not to lose the momentum of exercise. The second time when it came to momentum was when I was really sick back in May of 2006. I remember it like it was yesterday. I had I'm gonna call it a pre-COVID because I swear that had to be what it was before its time. But anyway, I had a head of chest cold, and not saying a head of chest cold. I had a head of chest cold, and also what else did I have? Strep throat. All at the same time. I was sick. I'd never been sick. Even to this day, even though I have been sick, I had a sinus infection once, and that was like pretty bad too. But even with that, when I was sick back in May in 2006, was sick. But anyway, even then, I call it my aerobics days. I didn't want to lose the momentum. Of course, I was out for a whole week. Went back to exercise and really couldn't. My chest, was just really couldn't take it. But what I did is I kept it in my mind. I kept, like visualizing myself. I didn't know that's what it was at the time, but I kind of like kept seeing myself exercising because I just knew that if I completely detached from it, that I would lose interest and didn't want to do it. So I'm sharing that with you is sometimes just by keeping it in your mind and pretending like you're doing it, that keeps the momentum, because when you don't, then you can swear you're going to get back to it. And even though I want to say that even though life can have its, trials and tribulations, but do not give up on your health. Do not give up on your wellness, because your wellness is your ticket. Because again, it can be, let's say this, if your wellness is your ticket, not only to wealth, but to your success and to other things, when you don't have your wellness, we already know what happens. You know what I'm saying? And so, in saying that, you hear me talk about breathing, you hear me talking about movement, you hear me talk about being intentional. This is not a game, this is your life. For those of us, some of you may be experiencing with your own parents. And I know that sometimes you may feel like, and it may actually be, it's not just feel like, it's like, I have no help. This is too much. They only have me. I don't have time. The only thing I can say is that, especially for those of you who have, I'm going to say family members, especially for those of you who have children, is to find a way. Because from the lessons that we learn from our parents, and not blaming them or anything like that, sometimes it just is. But we are in a better position than our parents. Some of us make more money than our parents, even though I still kind of feel like for some of us, it can still be almost equal because of inflation and everything like that. But because of the wealth of information that we have, we can do better. There's too many, I don't even want to say stories, but there's too many stories that have been shared where people have recovered. It's like once they start focusing on their health, it's not that they're just eating healthy, they're truly eating healthy, they're moving, they're doing different things, but it's also their mindset. They want to be well, they want to be healthy, they're doing the thing. So what about you? Because we cannot pass on a legacy in deficit if our wealth is not there. If our wealth too, but if our wellness is not there. And there's something that you can do about it. I remember years ago when I had read a book. I don't remember the name of the book, and I hate that I got rid of it. Oh, and I've tried to look for it. I'm gonna have to put it out there. I don't even know what year. I just remember that it was a book that I checked out when I was in high school. And I've always wanted to say I've had like a healthy mindset. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I was healthy 100% of the time, because even now there are areas in my life that needs to improve. But with this particular book, it talked about diseases. Um, it talked about cancer. It talked about heart attacks. I can't remember if it talked about strokes or not. But the way that I read the book at the time, I felt like it was blaming people, but actually it was really educating us. Now that I know what I know, I said, oh, okay, I see it now. It was really educating us that a lot of the diseases that people experience is because of lifestyle, it's because of choices, it's because of habits. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about self-care. It's the things that you are doing so you could be well in your mind, so you could be well in your heart. and in your heart, but also with your heart, meaning, the pumping of your heart, and be well in your body, which, that's part of it too. And so, for those of you who want some accountability when it comes to your wellness, when it comes to being a self-carepreneur, and that is an entrepreneur who prioritizes self-care. And again, self-care isn't just about the exercise, it's kind of like the steps that you take to get there. This is where Fortitude Free Circle can be so beneficial. It's an accountability group. It also has where you're able to, opportunities for you to plan your week, your month, your year out, opportunities for you to participate in co-working, opportunities where you can practice to take 5 to thrive, to stay alive, because some of it, not all of it, has to do with us, has to do with what we are doing or what we are not doing. And I hear so often that parents say, I would do anything for my child. But will you change your eating habits? Will you go to the gym so you can be healthy? Because again, it's the things that we're doing now that impacts us in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. Because heart attacks and strokes do not just show up. Pretty much, even when it comes to high blood pressure, high blood pressure is now. What are you doing now to alleviate high blood pressure? And you're like, Sharon, but they say that it's stress. It's stress. So are you sitting down for 5 minutes? If you can't do 5 minutes, all of it has a lot to do with training, y'all. And any of you have ridden a bike, you remember learning how to ride a bike? If not, visit that memory. You weren't good at it. You had to learn how to pedal. And for me, I had to learn, nobody didn't teach me how to put on the brakes, so I ran into a car. But I'm pretty sure I learned that day, right? So sometimes it does take, experiences for you to learn. But a lot of things are our habits. And again, I am not saying when it comes to heart attacks and strokes that it's somebody's fault. The only thing that I'm saying is do the things to try to prevent them, at least. But also, when you do the thing, if you do experience something, your recovery is so much different as compared to someone who do not put in the effort of taking care of themselves. Believe me, I've seen it firsthand. There's a difference of somebody recovering and they are truly putting in the efforts, they're changing their habits of eating, they're changing their habits of moving, they're really pushing themselves. When I say push, I'm not talking about the dangerous push. So in saying all of that, what I'm saying is do the things that need to be done so you can be well. And for those of you who are interested in coming into Fortitude Free Circle so that you can maintain your wellness, so that you can have some accountability, because even I need some accountability with certain aspects of my life. We can't do it all alone. We say that children need a village, so do adults. And so there are villages that are being built. There are villages that's already established. Find your village. And Fortitude Free Circle is one way for entrepreneurs to be well. And so for those of you who are interested, comment Fortitude so you can get into the circle. So I will see y'all next time.